I am walking. No, I can do what I want.
Okay, you can.
That girl's just I don't mind. Point away. Point away. Because you're not scaring me.
That's my hometown, the town I love, the town I've seen change. Let me just show you some of the terror plots that have come out of my town. You see, the UK government, anti-free speech, Keir Starmer and his crew of tyrants, and all previous governments, the Tory party, both governments in the UK, they have pushed the lie of multiculturalism and they've chased after the Muslim vote, hoping for the left-Islam alliance. We're seeing this happen now all over the world. The left are useful idiots for Islam because Islam is not a religion. Islam is a political, hostile, totalitarian ideology with a religious component. It seeks to conquer and dominate every aspect of private, public, and national life.
It's so good to be with you, friends, and hard to believe that we're already in the last week of July. This summer is going by way too fast. One of our favorite summer traditions is movie night, and tonight we're so pleased to feature Tommy Robinson's recent presentation entitled The Islamic Invasion. If you can think of anyone who might be interested in joining us for movie night, be sure to take a moment right now to share the registration link and invite them. It's Wednesday, July 29th, 2026, and this is the Empower Hour. If this is your first time joining us, it's my pleasure to introduce you to Tanya Gaw, the founder and leader of Action for Canada. For over 11 years, Tanya has been sounding the alarm and bringing public awareness to the many serious issues facing our nation, including tonight's topic concerning political Islam that is threatening our freedoms, our Judeo-Christian heritage, and the future of our nation. Will you all please help me welcome Tanya Gaw. Hello, Tanya.
Hi, Heather. Thank you for that introduction and all your good work. I just love how you've already as well shown people where they can look for more information on Islam in Canada. Have you guys ever had one of those weeks lately where it's like, holy smokes, a lot of stuff is going on, but you got to still keep moving forward? And how do you go about that process when you're being hit with several things? Are you calm and cool about it? Are you wondering why me? It's been a challenge. I've got to tell you, I'm having one of those weeks. And a week ago, exactly a week ago, my mom and I came up against a situation and our TD bank accounts have been locked down. So we have been functioning without bank accounts for a week now. Hopefully tomorrow this is going to be resolved. They did it under, the umbrella of, that we're protecting you from potential fraud. And it had to do with my mom, who I happen to have my account associated with her. So we've got joint accounts, and we did that out of a situation of, many years ago, if there was an emergency, would somebody be able to access my mom's account or my account and take care of our bills and finances, depending on if it was a medical emergency or how it went. So I'm only telling you this because we're going to be talking about more on this in the future, because Action for Canada has been trying to prepare you all, saying, necessarily if our money in the bank's closed down, if the stock markets collapse, how are you going to be sitting with your family? Will you have finances available to you to care for your family, buy groceries and take care of things? And so a lot of that has been directed at bringing someone like Steve Merrill on the show. We've talked about precious metals, silver. Have you purchased precious metals? And it's just been a real reality check for me this week. We thought we were moving along. We thought we were following all of the protocols that were in place. And it's those testimonies that we've been hearing about more and more Canadians, where the banks are far surpassing in the overreach as far as how you spend your money, how you withdraw your money, how much control they feel they have a right to, what questions they ask you. And so I've become very well educated in the past week on what the limitations are of the banks in exercising what they think is their authority over how you manage your finances. And it's much more limited than we have been told. And so I'm really excited about that because I think this is going to lead to the next step of helping Canadians prepare for what may be coming in the future. Do you owe money on your visa? If your bank account is shut down, can you pay your bills? Are you using cash? These are all very, very important questions, and I look forward to educating you further on those. And then I was even shocked to find out how many other Canadians are experiencing the same kind of troubles that my mom and I have had. I mean, think about this. My mom is almost 86 years old, and they completely shut down her accounts because she was withdrawing money, which was her right to do so, to spend however she likes. So I told the TD Bank, I says, the TD Bank, I said, is the frontliners for money laundering. Several years ago, they had to pay billions of dollars, and the head of the TD Bank in the US was removed, and in Canada. They have cartels laundering money. And I says, you guys come over after an 86-year-old woman? Does this make sense? I says, well, is this Canada or communist China? Anyways, I'm hoping to have some good news tomorrow and have our accounts unlocked and be back in business. You can bet that we are all going to have to really consider the banking situation right now. I've made it very clear to them. I said, this is why Canadians are pulling their money out of the bank. And the woman that I spoke to today had said, yes, we understand that. And she had apologized profusely, even though that isn't going to change our situation. So stay tuned. Hopefully within the next few weeks, I'll be able to provide a little more information, have somebody on the show where we can carefully cover this aspect of it. It's great now that you have, purchased silver. We hope you've done that. That's the best, one of the best investments that you could possibly make. Again, I'm not giving you financial advice. I'm just saying that when the rocky times comes, how are you going to manage at home financially? And to have also your accounts in order, that if they were to shut down your accounts, how do you function after that? Do you have cash at home where you could go and grab one of those prepaid visas so that you could pay for, I don't know, something that you can't pay cash for? Like for instance, I had to take my mom to the hospital last week for some tests, and you go to do the parking and they've only got tap. Well, I happened to remove tap because I was like, there's been some fraud attached to that. So how do you do this? How do we go about surviving in a world that has sort of corralled us and moved us into a direction like sheep to the slaughter, all in the name of convenience and financial security? All right. So I didn't mean to go quite into that much detail about this, but it has been a shocking experience that I hope I can use my experience to help others become more secure in the future. So right now I'm going to share my page because before going into this presentation from Tommy Robinson, which I'm going to ask you if you could please, I know it's nearly 2 hours long, the presentation itself, but think what you're willing to spend 2 hours on. Are you willing to go to the movies and spend 2 hours on it, go to a dinner and spend 2 hours with friends? What are you willing to spend 2 hours on? Because this is essential. This is critical because Islam poses the greatest single threat against the Western world, against freedom and democracy, and they mean business. And so you have to have a shift in what your priorities are. And so we're going to ask that you would share this with elected officials. You'll start conversations with them. You'll share it with coworkers, family, friends. If we don't have, if we're not in a position where Canadians are well informed and educated on this threat, rather than what we've been taught, oh, there's the nice Muslims, and it's a religion of peace. I mean, this is all like military style warfare. And we've got to undo the lies that they have been telling us so that we can draw a fine line in the sand and be prepared to defend Canada. And that comes through education, that comes through being knowledgeable, especially about what this threat is and being willing to name it. All right, where everybody now who's on the front line of this is saying, oh, let's not talk about, radical Islam or Islamic extremism. This is just Islam. And the moderate Muslims are those who are not abiding by the Quran. The Quran is the book of hate. I call it, demonic doctrine, if you would. It's based on false gods, false teachings, and we're giving it shield and protection under our Charter of Rights and Freedoms. So I'll show you a document as well where we need to undo this. So first of all, this is under weekly calls to action. You just go to weekly emails. You'll see this page. A couple of the documents I'm going to be bringing up right now, you can quickly access on this page. That's one of the greatest ones and fastest ways of receiving some of this information. Thank you. I'm starting with a big thank you tonight. A couple of weeks ago, I made an appeal that if our viewers, our members could support us by contributing to the legal action in response to brought on by Tyson Cook. Do you remember the drag queen Frida Wales, who is suing Action for Canada for defamation for simply exposing what he himself had up on his own platforms, whether social media or his webpage, and the target towards children, how they could easily be exposed to adult content. And so we are happy to announce that we're over halfway in raising the money for the additional $30,000 in the legal expenses that we had to pay getting to the court action that I attended in Kelowna a couple of weeks ago. And just to remind you that on August 29th in Kelowna, that the judge will be providing her decision. And so we're a little anxious. We're looking forward to that, and we'll give you an update as soon as we can. Now, the other thing that we were very happy to finally announce as well is long overdue, nearly for 5 years of litigation. Actually, it was in 2021, August of 2021, that we launched the constitutional challenge against the BC and federal government, and we will be going to court on September 24th here in Vancouver to address their second motion to strike. They do not want us in the courts, but I am trusting the delays because you will see down in the United States, there's a ton going on about Anthony Fauci. He's before the Senate right now. He's being questioned. He's on the hot seat. He's pleading the fifth. He is so guilty. We shouldn't even be wasting our time with this. And I hope that it isn't all political, a political theater that's going on in that process right now. We want to see justice, and we want to see people go to jail. And that may have an effect on moving our case forward here in Canada as well. They murdered a lot of people. You and I know so many people that had family and friends that instantly after taking that jab, they died. We're talking millions of people around the world died after taking that jab, and people need to be responsible for that. And they can't hide behind a fake pandemic. And so we are very seriously moving and working against a legal system that does not want to meet with us in the courts, but we refuse to give in or give up. We're in this, and we intend to win it. And so please continue to support us. We want our war chest full, and depending on what next steps that we have to take legally. So again, thank you. We can't do this without your support. Now, Heather had mentioned under current issues that if you just drop down, you'll get to this Islam page. And we have done a lot of work over the years trying to educate you. This is Tommy Robinson is coming from the UK. He was speaking tonight when the presentation was in Florida. He spoke before congressmen, but this is actively transpiring in Canada as well, and you need to be aware of it. It's no time to be sleepy anymore. It's no time to put your head in the sand because you just can't deal with the stress of it. This is war. They're commencing war against Canadians, and they have a very strategic plan, unapologetically, to infiltrate all levels of our government and take over from within. It's a not so silent jihad, if you know what you're looking for. The Rise of Political Islam report is here. I highly recommend that you take these documents and share them. The mass deportation, we want a moratorium on immigration. Find that on the page, the petition, and please sign it. I'm going to play 1 minute of what this fellow is, and then we're going to lead into Tommy's, a couple of more things, then lead into Tommy's presentation.
Within 100 years of Muhammad's death, Islam conquered 70% of the Christian world. This was a conquest. Islam is not a religion, it is a political movement. Islam masquerades as a religion for us to accept them into the West as freedom of religion, but under the religion, it is a political movement that seeks to take over the world. In Spain, there was 1 million Muslims living in Spain, and in one day, if you study history, in one day, 500,000 Muslims converted to Christianity. In one day, 500,000 Muslims left their religion and became Christians. Wow. And the Christians thought it was revival. The Christians thought, wow, this is revival. God is moving. The Muslims are turning to Christ. But later on, they found out that the 500,000 Muslims that became Christians were not real converts. They were simply lying to the Christians for the Christians to allow them into their nation, to allow them into their homes and churches. And later on, they found out that the Muslims were going to church on Sunday, worshiping Jesus, taking communion, getting baptized. But on Friday, they were gathering in the mosques, strategizing how they were going to take over Spain. So there was this double.
So this is part of Islam. This is part of the Quran, right? Allah is named in the Quran as the great deceiver. In the Bible, it says that the great deceiver is Satan. This is a false god, false worship. It's demonic doctrine, and we are protecting it and giving it rights under the Charter of Rights and Freedoms falsely. This has got to stop. And taqiyya is what it is called, where when Muslims are permitted to lie, they will befriend you. So everybody will say, oh, I know these nice Muslims. It's like, are they really? Are you sure about that? Because when push comes to shove, what are they going to have to say? I had a mechanic that was Muslim. He said, oh, I love to study Bible. I got him a study Bible, and we'd have conversations. And then one day I looked at him. We were having I can't quite remember what the topic was. And I looked at him and I said, well, Canada's a Christian nation. And how quickly he said, no, it's not. And he said it was secular. And it was multicultural and all these things. And for those of you, I keep saying, pick a side. Either you want to live in freedom. That freedom has only come, and Christian democratic nations have only come where they were founded on Christian biblical principles. It's a fact. You can't even turn to me and say, Tanya, that's not true. Such and such a place offers freedom and democracy. No, any other country operating under any other system, whether Buddhists, whether Sikhs, Hindus, Muslims, communists, this is all tyranny. And secularism is communism. You have been so sucked in and so lured into their trap, and it's time for you to pick a side. Even if you're an atheist or agnostic, you will live a happy life and a free life in a Christian nation, but you will not live freely under Sharia or under communism or all of the other options that are out there. So I am pleading with you, please understand this is a time to wake up and pick a side, because the Muslims are coming. They're infiltrating all levels of government. I've already brought this up before in the past with Manitoba. In Manitoba, the Muslims are constantly lobbying government to advance. And so they've lobbied the Manitoba government, who have foolishly allowed an anti-Islamophobia teaching from K to 12. To recognize and celebrate Islam, to equip and empower, offering educators supportive resources. Why? This isn't an Islamic country. What a bunch of chumps we are. It is really time to put a stop to it. And then we have a petition. This is another example. I mean, how outrageous in the city of Regina in Saskatchewan that the Muslims again lobbied the local police, lobbied the local mayor and city council to have a call to prayer. Who wants to listen to the whining Islamic call to prayer? How annoying is that on loudspeakers that you're forced to listen to every Friday? And then when there was backlash, they were like, oh, we just wanted to, be part of the community and introduce them to us. And I'm like, really? I don't think so. You have just a targeted plan to implement Sharia, push Islam as you've done throughout Europe and the UK. They are dangerous. They know exactly what the plan is. They will use self-victimization to advance their plan. And we've got to stop being silly about this. And that's why I say we really need to pick a side. So go in our under call to action. If you hit on urgent actions, you'll find this petition. Please sign it. Today, what we did was we printed the PDF with all the signatures, delivered it to the Regina Police, who are behind this permit, as well as the Mayor City Council. Every time it is signed as well, Scott Moe, the Premier, receives an email. So please be courageous, get on there and sign it. Don't hesitate about it. This should be 1 million signatures in Canada. This is where we put a stop to this and we draw the line in the sand, because we are rapidly becoming where Tommy is going to go on this as he exposes what's going on in Europe and the UK. His firsthand experience is unfolding very quickly. But take comfort, because France, Germany, Denmark, they are all getting on the front now, banning the burqa, banning Islam, and we've got a better way of going about this. Canada is indeed a Christian nation. We have an incredible PDF on this page that we've created. Just go in the search bar, Canada's a Christian nation. Get this into the hands of every elected official. And then finally, challenging the expansive interpretation of religion under Section 2A of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms is a new research paper that I have developed. I have made it available on our website under the Coronation Oath link under current issues. And this is challenging that the term religion was never intended to give protection to false gods. We are a Christian nation. The Bible says, you shall have no other gods before me. And that is according to the scripture. Please look up Exodus 20:30, that you shall have no other gods before me or make for yourselves idols. God says that he is a jealous God and that he will visit iniquity onto the fathers upon children to the third and fourth generations for those who hate him. And what he means by that is for them who allow the false gods and the false teaching to come into their land, but showing mercy to thousands, to those who love God and keep his commandments. And that's why I say, please, my friends, pick a side. The very existence of our nation relies on it, and the future for our children. They're either going to die by the sword or they're going to stand in Christ. And to me, that's an easy decision. And so I challenge you as well and welcome you to make the right one. So Heather, back to you. Would you please introduce the show tonight?
Thank you, Tanya. We are so pleased to be offering you another powerful movie night featuring Tommy Robinson's recent presentation at the University of Florida entitled The Islamic Invasion. Tommy is a British journalist, author, activist, and documentarian who has faced state harassment, threats, personal and business attacks, lawsuits, arrests, and imprisonment, all because he courageously speaks out about inconvenient truths and corruption that the powers that be don't want the public to hear. He calls on men to boldly take a stand, to defend their families and the foundational principles that preserve our freedom and democracy. So now we invite you to sit back, relax, and get comfortable as we head over to tonight's featured presentation.
This is a presentation I gave to members of Congress about 3 weeks ago. Recently in Texas, you had a 95% vote back from the Republican primaries about banning Sharia. This is going to become such a discussion topic in the United States. It's going to become an election winner. So I want to start at the beginning and go through start to finish so that you understand what Islam is from start to finish. So I'd like to say good evening and thank you. Thank you, America. I'd like to thank the people that made it possible for me to get into the United States, home of the brave and land of the free. I want to thank Elon Musk, because Elon Musk gave me back my voice on X. He gave the British public back the opportunity for free speech. And I'd like to thank the brave students who have come here today and the gentlemen who have put on this event. I'm pretty disappointed. I think I'm slacking. Where are Antifa? Well, I must be getting weak in my old age. I'd expected some Antifa. But I want to speak to you today about the dangers of Islam and the dangers of Sharia law. But before I start, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Tommy Robinson. This may annoy some people, but I'm probably the most watched journalist in Britain, possibly Europe, and maybe one of the most watched journalists in the world. Not bad for a lad from Luton Town. I'm 43 years old. When I was born in 1982, in my town, there was one mosque. There's now 45. I don't talk about what I've seen or what I've read. I talk about a life experience of a town that has changed beyond belief. And it hasn't changed for the better. So let me just show you a quick video from my hometown.
UK, go to hell! UK, go to hell! British police, go to hell! British police, go to hell!
Dare speak to me like that. I wasn't sure. This is my hometown as well.
All right, stay then. If you,
No, I'm walking.
Okay, stop pointing.
I am walking. No, I can do what I want.
Okay, you can.
That girl's just hot. I don't mind. Point away. Point away. Because you're not scaring me. Do you think it's fair that you should say British police need to burn in hell?
That's a freedom of speech. They can, if they wish to say it, they can say it.
In Islam, doesn't it say that you have to respect the law of the land that you're living in?
No.
I thought it did.
That's my hometown, the town I love, the town I've seen change. Let me just show you some of the terror plots that have come out of my town. The Luton Army Base bomb plot, the 2020 London attack, the Stockholm bomber, who was a suicide bomber who come to the UK from Sweden and went and blew himself up in Sweden, the 7/7 suicide bombers killing 52, the fertiliser bomb plot, the gas limos plot. It's the base and the home of Al Mujahideen, who their head office was in my town. That's one of the world's most known terrorist organisations. It was the home of 12 ISIS recruits. His entire family went to join ISIS during the time of the Caliphate. They were all living off the benefit state in Britain and they left to join ISIS. Luton Muslims died fighting for ISIS. I knew Abu. I knew him growing up. He was a fighter who died. Another one, Al-Britani. He went and blew himself up in another suicide attack. Luton has a population of 200,000 people. Now, I could show you and stand here for 10 minutes showing you terrorist after terrorist after terrorist. What I'm showing you is that out of a 50% population of 200,000 people, that's my town. Yeah, that may explain why I have been fighting against the Islamification of Great Britain and all that means since 2004, but most people know of my activism since 2009 when I started a street protest movement called the English Defence League. In that time, there have been 12 or maybe now 13 terror plots or intelligence-led plots to take my life. It's called, in the UK, it's called an Osman warning. It's when the government sit you down and they give you intelligence saying, look, we have intelligence, someone's planning to kill you. I've had Al-Shabaab. Most recently, just 2 weeks before I came here, I was named in a publication from the ISIS terror manual. Oh, that's this is 6 gentlemen. They're doing 30 years in jail. They got caught with guns and bombs on their way to kill us. They got there 2 hours late. It's a crazy story. There's a video of them walking through the square 2 hours after we were there. That's this month's. I'm gutted because look, I've got a big double chin. But that's this month's terror manual from ISIS. Kill the one who disrespects the Prophet. By the end of this, I'm going to give you every bit of information about the Prophet. You're going to know who he was and what he actually teaches. And that's what they don't want you to know. That's why they don't want you to ask questions. So, apart from this stuff, the biggest challenge to me, other than the threats, other than the violence, has been from the British government. Because, you see, the UK government, anti-free speech, Keir Starmer and his crew of tyrants, and all previous governments, the Tory party, both governments in the UK, they have pushed the lie of multiculturalism and they've chased after the Muslim vote, hoping for the left Islam alliance. We're seeing this happen now all over the world. The left are useful idiots for Islam. It's now reached a point where our leaders cower in fear, unwilling and unable to stop what is coming. Everything we hold dear, everything, liberty, equality under law, our democracy, and the very nation itself, everything is in peril. Now, the first thing I need to say is I'm going to speak about Islam, the doctrines, the ideology. I'm not going to talk about Muslims. Some people conflate the two, and they don't seem to be able to separate the two. If you hate every individual Muslim, it's a problem, because there's some wonderful Muslims. I've met some beautiful Muslims growing up. I'm not going to talk about Muslims. I'm going to talk about Islam. And it's our God-given right to talk about Islam. It's our God-given right to look at the teachings, to understand the teachings. We'll get onto why you need to know the teachings, because most of them talk about how you, as non-Muslims, should be taught. I don't hate Muslims, but I do despise the ideas contained within Islam. I want to cover 3 topics. Firstly, foundational ideas within Islam. It's critical for us to understand these. And many people watching this at home, many of my supporters, they already will know a lot of them. Then there's the strategies of Islam, the strategies that Islam adopts in order to gain its goals in Western countries. And finally, the ugly reality of Sharia. I will show you all how Islam, not Islamism, not extremist Islam, and not any other political Islam or any other word invented by Western politicians, but Islam is incompatible with Western civilization and democracy. Not just my view, but that's the view of every Muslim who truly follows the teachings of Islam. Now, foundational ideas. Before beginning a discussion about Islamic doctrine, it's important to define what is Islam. Failure to do this results in the usual accusations. I have a nice Muslim friend. Okay? Tommy, you don't understand anything about Islam. You're not a scholar. So we have to understand what is Islam. Of course, some people will straight away claim this is Islamophobia, another made-up word. But I'm sure all of you watching in this room and watching at home, you can decide on your idea of what I'm about to show you. Defining Islam protects us from being fooled by those who would have us believe Islam is a religion of peace. Do you know the term Islam is a religion of peace? Until George W. Bush said it after September 11th. It was never said. No Islamic leader, no religious leader will get on and prove your American leaders, your founding fathers, knew what Islam was. But it protects us from those who wish to tell us it's just a minority of Muslims who hold extreme views. When we talk about Muslims who hold extreme views, this is Pew Research, yeah? So we talk about Sharia law, and people talk about, the minority, and it's the minority. 99% of Muslims in Afghanistan want Sharia law. 91% in Iraq, 89% in Palestine, 84% in Pakistan, 71% in Nigeria. The majority of Muslims worldwide want Sharia law.
In times of financial uncertainty, safeguarding your assets is increasingly important. In response to ongoing inflation, economic challenges, and market instability, many Canadians are adopting the timeless strategy of investing in precious metals. Historically, gold and silver have held their value, safeguarding your assets against economic turmoil. Action for Canada is pleased to announce our partnership with Steve of Sun City Silver, providing valued members of A4C with expanded investment opportunities designed to help you achieve your financial goals. Steve is an ally of the Freedom Movement, and he's offering members of Action for Canada exclusive access to some of Canada's premier prices. By leveraging his connections with Silver Gold Bull, you can access competitive rates for securing your precious metals. Silver Gold Bull is a trusted Canadian leader, offering live pricing 24/7 and boasting nearly 400,000 five-star reviews on Trustpilot. For an order of $5,000, be sure to indicate you're an Action for Canada member and receive a complimentary 1967 silver dollar, courtesy of Sun City Silver. Expand your collection further by referring a new customer who places a similar order, and Steve will reward you with a special bonus thank you gift. Your purchase with Steve is a dual investment. You invest in your future while simultaneously supporting the Freedom Movement with a percentage of each sale benefiting Action for Canada. For more information, be sure to visit actionforcanada.com/purchasing-precious-metals/. Secure your assets. Protect your future. Support Action for Canada and the Freedom Movement. The information presented is for educational and informational purposes only and is not intended to provide financial, legal, or tax advice, as we are not licensed financial advisors, accountants, or attorneys and cannot provide professional counsel. Be advised that the content and information provided does not create a client relationship. We recommend you consult with a qualified professional advisor before making any financial, legal, or tax decisions. Please note that Action for Canada is not responsible for an individual's financial outcome. Remember, your decisions are your own, and we recommend doing your own research before making any investment.
That means that every 100 Afghanis you've brought into your country, which Joe Biden opened your borders up to hundreds of thousands, out of every 100, 99 of them want Sharia law. They don't get to the American border or the British border or Europe's border and say, do you know what, I'm going to leave all my views at home. They bring those views with them. It's part of their migration, part of the Islamization. And let's see how many of them believe in... I could do this for apostasy. I could look at all their views, but we simply don't have time for this presentation. Stoning as punishment for adultery, yeah? 89% of Pakistanis believe stoning's a sufficient punishment. 89, so every 100 you let in, 89 from Pakistan which you've opened your borders to Pakistan, 50% of my town back home is Pakistani. 50%. Yeah? Well, 89 out of every 100 think stoning a woman, digging a hole in the floor and smashing rocks at her is acceptable. 85% in Afghanistan, 55% in Bangladesh. You can see there, a majority think it's acceptable. A majority want Sharia law. But then for those who want to say it's a minority of Muslims, let me just see this.
So I will ask you, everyone in the room, how many of you are normal Muslims? You're not extremists, you're not radical, just normal Sunni Muslims. Please raise your hands. Everybody, mashallah, subhanallah. Okay, take down your hands again. So it's not just these radical sheikhs then. Allahu Akbar. Next question. How many of you agree that the punishments described in the Quran and the Sunnah, whether it is death, whether it is stoning for adultery, whatever it is, if it is from Allah and His Messenger, that is the best punishment ever possible for humankind. And that is what we should apply in the world. Well, who agrees with that? Allahu Akbar. Are you all radical extremists? SubhanAllah. So, all of you are saying that you are common Muslims. Allahu Akbar. How many of you just go to these normal masajids in Norway, the normal Sunni mosques? Please raise your hands. Allahu Akbar. So what's the politicians gonna say now? What's the media gonna say now? That we're all extremists? We're all radicals? We need to deport all of us from this country? Subhanallah.
Yeah, Mohammed, that's exactly what we are saying. That's exactly what we are saying. Look, these are not minority views. That's just a start. They're not minority views. And if they were minority views, tell that to the citizens in Lebanon, the citizens in Iran or Afghanistan, countries seized by a small number of fanatics. This is the best explanation for the minority argument I've ever seen.
So why should we worry about the radicals, 15 to 25%? Because it is the radicals that kill. Because it is the radicals that behead and massacre. When you look throughout history, when you look at all the lessons of history, most Germans were peaceful. Yet the Nazis drove the agenda. And as a result, 60 million people died. Almost 14 million in concentration camps. 6 million were Jews. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. When you look at China, for example, most Chinese were peaceful as well. Yet the Chinese were able to kill 70 million people. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. On September 11th in the United States, we had 2.3 million Arab Muslims living in the United States. It took 19 hijackers, 19 radicals to bring America down to its knees, destroy the World Trade Center, attack the Pentagon, and kill almost 3,000 Americans that day. The peaceful majority were irrelevant.
The wonderful Bridget Gabriel there, yeah? It also, understanding start to finish, which this presentation will help you to do, it protects us from those who tell us Islam is just another harmless faith. A harmless faith that should be ignored, a bit like you do the Amish. It would be a fatal mistake. Why? Because Islam is not a religion. Islam is a political, hostile, totalitarian ideology with a religious component. It seeks to conquer and dominate every aspect of private, public, and national life. Those points include the judiciary, religious compliance, public order, public morality, defence, war, security, treasury, oil and mineral resources, the media, education, health, agriculture, infrastructure, that's water, electricity, roads, charity, spoils of war. All these are departments of an Islamic state. It's not a religion. But let me start at the very beginning. 610, 1416 years ago, Muhammad declared he was receiving revelations from Allah. That's Islam's God. Allah told Muhammad he was to tell us that he was sent as the messenger of Allah, and we are to believe in Allah and in Muhammad. See Quran 7:158. So believe in Allah and his messenger, the Prophet. It all hinges on this. Muhammad says these are the words of God, and the words of God say we must believe in Muhammad. In other words, believe me, I'm hearing voices. Allah also tells Muhammad he is the perfect moral example for all of the world at all of the time. That's Quran 3:31, 68, 4, 33, 21. So how can we find out about this perfect example of moral excellence? How do we follow the Prophet Muhammad? Well, a critical part of following Muhammad is the Sunnah. That's the way and the life of Muhammad. And this is recorded in the Hadiths. The Hadith are verbally transmitted records of the teachings, the deeds, and the sayings, the silent permissions, and the disapprovals of Muhammad. They are a critical source of Sharia law. And the authority of the Hadith comes from the Quran, 24:54. Obey Allah and obey the messenger. So whatever Muhammad says in his life, whatever he did in his life, that's the perfect example, which comes from the Hadiths. There's 6 major Hadiths, or worldwide recognized Hadiths. They all start with the word Sahih, which means authentic in Arabic. Finally, we have the biography of Muhammad, which serves as a historical record of the Prophet's life and the early history of Islam, and it provides us another reference for Sharia law. Incidentally, all of these things, the Hadiths, the Quran, everything, they weren't wrote down till 200 years after Muhammad's life. So what is Sharia? Sharia is Islamic law as defined by the sacred texts, and it's for all of mankind. That includes every one of you. Sharia law is not just for Muslims, it's for every one of you, and it's eternal for all of time and all of places. I want to highlight Sharia supersedes all human law, including all national constitutions, including your American Constitution, all legal systems, all international agreements. Sharia law comes first. And Muslims must not give allegiance to any person, any institution, any country, any governing law, other than that which is ordained by Allah, and that is an Islamic state with Sharia law. Have a look at this.
Every Muslim on earth believes in the Sharia of Allah. Every Muslim on earth believes that democracy is evil and Sharia is the good.
They are on a mission to destroy the Western civilization, the liberal democracy, and everything it represents.
Say it loud and say it clear! We support Hezbollah here! We support Hezbollah here!
Look, Islam will enter every household, whether you like it or not. Donald Trump, inshallah, soon you will see we have a plan in place to go visit him.
A nation state will always fail for Muslims.
We would support our brothers in Iraq. That's the only way.
So you wouldn't defend America?
We would not defend America.
Not to democracy, not to liberalism, not to capitalism, not to any other ism that man has invented, other than what Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam wrote.
America is the cancer. America, the American government, secularism, democracy, capitalism, these are cancers.
We stand in full solidarity! We stand in full solidarity! With the Islamic Revolution! With the Islamic Revolution!
What we as Muslims want to implement here in the United States, we believe the Constitution should be replaced by the Quran.
First move that I will do, I will abolish the Constitution and I will establish the only logical and rational Constitution, which is the Quran and the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
That's right. They will do away with your constitution. They will use democracy to end democracy. Do you know how easy it was? There's lots of presentations here that I sat. They're not hiding it. Do you know all of these videos? They're not secretly, covertly recorded. They're put up on their social media pages, on Facebook, in every state, in every mosque across the United States, talking of conquest, infiltration, deception, talking of ruling and governing and subjugating the non-Muslims of the United States of America. And here are Muslims, members of parliament in the UK, swearing by Allah on the Quran in our parliament. This isn't just happening. So every MP, and we're going to understand why this is a problem when you hear what Islam is, you see what Sharia is, and you see the goals and intentions and the teachings of what Islam tells them they must do.
I swear by Almighty God that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to her.
I swear by...
Also, our council meetings now across the country are opened up with Islamic prayer, not Christian prayer. And this is coming to the United States. That's all you.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. First of all, thank you to the Chamber, to all members. This is the Islamic call to prayer.
You think they're trolling us, wouldn't you? You think they're trolling us? With most of it, it's like, really? This is happening. It's happening in America. It's happening in New York, it's happening in Mandani, it's happening with your congressman. To give you another example of Islamic supremacy in Sharia. You had the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which is all the world's countries coming together to sign the Declaration of Human Rights in 1990. Let's all agree we must protect human rights. Do you know what the Islamic countries done? They separated themselves from the rest of the world. 45 of them. And they created the Cairo Declaration. So they said, yeah, we'll sign up to human rights so long as all rights and freedoms are subject to Sharia and Islamic law. So don't be fooled by the nonsense of Islamic nations signing up to human rights, yeah? Because as long as they fall in line with Sharia law, there are no human rights in Sharia law, okay? Everything has to be governed by Sharia law. Now, conquering the world. Going forward, I'll reference the sacred texts I've mentioned, videos from Islamic leaders, many of them American Muslim Islamic leaders, Islamic scholars, Islamic groups, and examples of Sharia in practice. Just for the record, for those at home, I am using the authoritative Hilali and Khan translation of the Quran. For those who don't say it's authentic, it's printed in Saudi Arabia, okay? Printed at the King Fahd printing complex in Medina. It's very important to understand as we start Islam's goal to conquer the world. Now, I know to those who know nothing about Islam, that may sound mad, okay? But it's not. Allah tells Muhammad, 8:39, fight the unbelievers until there is no more unbelief or fitna. That's disbelief, okay? Let's have a listen.
Islam needs to grow within the borders of the United States of America, even more important than Canada, the United States of America. Help those who are fighting for your cause, Ya Allah. The ones who are fighting with military warfare.
Today, we bring the favor back, turn their churches into masjids,
turn your churches into mosques,
their schools into Islamic schools. Bring the light of Islam to here.
Yes, we need to market Islam. And we need to put scientific budgets on how to get the information about Islam out in the public. Once Islam is understood, Islam will be respected. And Islam will be followed.
Our goal is to have a copy of this book in every home in America.
50 years from now, Muslims will become the #1 religious group compared to Christians. In 50 years, inshallah.
Why is the other side not getting killed? Why are they not being decapitated? It will come. Don't worry. In fact, Islam is on a trajectory of the most incredible growth imaginable. It will continue as promised by Allah, and it will overtake the world as promised by Allah.
Now, let's look at this Quranic verse, 2:216. Jihad, holy fighting, is ordained. It's obligatory for Muslims. That's what the Holy Book says, and here's what Muslim leaders have to say.
As we're here living in the US, what is our role now? Let me just quote for you an ayah of the Quran, and I'm going to try to encapsulate it. Allah is saying, do not obey the disbelievers. Don't yield to them. And then He gives us the process of what to do next. وَجَاهِدْهُمْ بِهِ جِهَادًا كَبِيرًا. And so make jihad against them.
We neglected the principle of support, which is al-jihadu fi sabilillah. And each one of us should be a soldier today. كُلُّكُمْ حَتْمًا سَيُقْتَلْ وَاللَّهِ الَّذِي لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا هُ. All of them will be killed by Muslims. They all will be executed by Muslims. كلهم سيقتلون لأنه وعد إلهي ولا بد أن يقع.
اللهم عليك باليهود اللهم عليك باليهود وأعوانهم فإنهم لا يعجزونك. اللهم احصهم عددا.
Kill them one by one. Oh Allah. So he's praying in an American mosque in front of his congregation to kill all of us. Yeah?
We no longer have knowledge of how the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was a warrior.
And this is really a consequence of post 9/11 dawah, where the Muslims have decided they were too scared, say we don't want to speak about the fighting aspects of Islam.
And I only hope that Allah will bless me to see the day that I get to listen to the last gasping breath of them hanging from the rope that Allah gave them to hang themselves.
What is your duty as a member of the Ummah now that you are also an American? It is our physical jihad duty to fight the entire earth until we enter it into the Ummah.
So you saw the Quranic verse there, jihad. It's ordained, it's obligatory for you. Fighting is mandatory for every single Muslim, whether they like it or not. Now, some may ignore these verses, but this is the teachings of Islam. And I want you to know there's different commentaries. So you have different commentators on the Quran, and they take a verse like that, and they all give their expert opinion on the translation and what it actually means. And I want you to know that all commentaries, all of them, from Abbas to Kathir to Jalilin to Qawashi, they all agree that that's what this means, yeah? Let's have a look at Quran 860. And make ready against them all you can of power, including steeds of war. So modern commentators will say tanks, planes, missiles, artillery, to threaten the enemy of Allah. 9:29, another Quranic verse. Fight against those who believe not in Allah. That's you lot. Yeah, it's all of us. Until they pay the jizya with willing submission and feel themselves subdued. That's right. Muslims are commanded in the teachings to fight against all of us until you pay protection tax. For you who don't understand what jizya is, you can get out of this war or battle or be killed. You have to pay a special tax for protection to the Muslim community once you feel subdued. Listen to this, America.
From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli, we fight our country's battles in the air, on land and sea. First to fight for...
Do you recognise that hymn? That's the hymn of the American Royal Marines. It commemorates the US Marines' role in the First Barbary War, specifically the 1805 assault on the city of Derna in Tripoli, which is modern-day Libya, where they raised the United States flag for the first time ever on foreign soil. Your founding father, your third president, President Thomas Jefferson, he worked out back then what was going on with Islam. You see, he wrote, every time American ships were sailing, they were being attacked by Islamic pirates, yeah? And he wrote to try and understand. So he wrote to Tripoli, and this is in his writing. Yeah? He wrote to say, why are they attacking us? We're not at war with these people. What is going on? Why do they keep attacking American ships? And he was told, the Quran made it clear that non-Muslims who didn't acknowledge Islamic authority were sinners and war and enslavement was permitted. Let's read what he said. We took the liberty to make some inquiries concerning the ground of their pretensions to make war upon nations who had done them no injury. The ambassador answered that it was founded on the laws of their prophet and it was written in the Quran. Now, back then, you could speak honestly. We didn't have to listen to this nonsense about interpretation or Islamic groups or extremist this, extremist that. Jefferson understood it. Do you know what else Jefferson actually said? He said that this was the first battle of the United States of America. And if we don't keep our eye on this idea, that's Islam, it may end up being our last. Okay? He knew what was happening all the way back then. Do you know what Winston Churchill said? Churchill said, he actually said Islam in a man is like rabies in a dog. But he also made the point of saying that individual Muslims show amazing traits. But Islam has the power to bring Europe back to the Dark Ages. Sir William Gladstone held the Quran above his head in British Parliament. And he said, there will never be peace on this earth so long as we have this book. This book is a violent and cursed book. Okay? Previous war leaders, your religious leaders, your clergy leaders, they all understood. They all spoke openly and spoke honestly. And let me show you what a leading 20th century Islamic scholar, Maududi. Now, Maududi is a lead scholar recognised throughout the world. Again, this isn't Tommy Robinson's opinion. Yeah? These are the opinions of the Islamic scholars who are leading theologians across the world on Islam. Fight with those people who have become your enemies because you are trying to reform the way of life in accordance with Islam. But when they had established a tiny state at Medina, they were, for the first time, allowed to go to war against those who were opposing this reformative movement with force. Now, do you think, are Muslims in America, this is Epic City next, yeah? This is Epic City in Texas. Are Muslims in America trying to establish a tiny state in Texas and reform the way of life in accordance with Islam? No, the instruction there by the lead Islamic scholar in the world is to fight people who are defined as their enemies because they are resistant to the social reforms Islam brings. That is, they don't accept Islam. Why fight us? Well, look at Quran 2191. And kill them wherever you find them and turn them out from where they have turned you out. Disbelief is worse than killing. So that's right. Your unbelief in Islam, all of our unbelief in Islam, is worse than the killing and murdering that they are ordered to do. But don't worry again, 3 out of the 6 hadiths, the sacred texts of Islam, they give us all a way out of this. They tell us that you can save your own life and your property by converting to Islam. Yeah? That's the way out. Convert to Islam or we'll kill you. Try and stop Islam in your country, in my country, in any Western nation. You are the enemy by definition and you must be fought. This is Sharia. Strategies. So what strategies does Islam employ to achieve its goals in the West? Well, there are several, and they reflect the fact that Islam knows right now it cannot conquer Western countries through an all-out violent revolution. They would not be successful. Not yet, at least. First, migration, immigration. The Islamic New Year, Al-Hijjah, commemorates the journey Muhammad made from Mecca to Medina to flee persecution and to set up the first Islamic state. The word Hijjah actually means migration. The Quran tells us again, 2:218, verily, those who have believed and those who have emigrated for Allah's religion. So emigrating is part of Islam's goal for Allah. In fact, the Quran tells us that those who emigrate for the cause of Islam, those who fight and die, will have all their sins wiped away and will end up in paradise by a very impressive gate. Quite the incentive, eh? Let's listen to Mandani.
And I consider my own faith, Islam, a religion built upon a narrative of migration. The story of the Hijrah reminds us that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was a stranger too, who fled Mecca and was welcomed in Medina. Surah An-Nahl 1642 tells us, as for those who immigrated in the cause of Allah after being persecuted, we will surely bless them with a good home in this world. Or as the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, Islam began as something strange and will go back to being strange. So glad tidings to the strangers.
What Mandani fails to tell everyone there is that Muhammad peacefully migrated to Medina. Then he slaughtered and exiled every person who didn't convert to Islam. Conveniently leaves that out in his lovely little presentation about his Prophet Muhammad. Now, the reason I'm telling you this is migration is a key part of Islam. Let's look what's happening in not just America, but in Europe.
From 2023 to 2024, the population of the United States increased by 3.3 million. But I just told you that there were only about 500,000 new births. What was the other 85% was from international migration.
50 million Muslims now live in Europe. At the turn of the century, that number was less than 500,000, and more are arriving every day.
The future of Islam in the West. Alhamdulillah, the future is ours. Islam's going to spread. There's no doubt to it. The West is West, East, North, South, all going to be Muslim.
عندنا 50 مليون مسلم في أوروبا. هناك علامات أخرى تدل على أن الإسلام سيظهر الله في أوروبا بدون سيف، بدون بندقية، بدون 50 مليون مسلم في أوروبا. بعد عشرات السنين سيحول أوروبا إلى قارة مسلمة.
That was Colonel Gaddafi predicting that, in fact, saying the biggest weapon the Muslims have is the womb, and that he sees that they will take over Europe in a few decades without raising a sword. I think it looks like they're headed on that pathway. The next strategy of Islam is procreation. Procreation, birth. And when they get to where they're going through their Islamic conquest and their Islamic migration, they will outbreed the indigenous population.
New data released by the CDC shows the number of children women are having has decreased for a second year in a row.
Why does Germany have this ultra-low birth rate?
Germany is really not unusual for countries in Europe unless they have an ideology, a belief, a religion that informs them that having children is the most important thing and they prioritize it. Then whether it's Japan or China or Macedonia or Britain or Germany, the fertility rate goes low.
So eventually, we are the one who will be in control of things, or we have the final say. But we need to really realize this. Why? Because simply we are a greater number, and after just the way we have children, just few years from now, we're going to be all over it.
Okay, so would you like to see Sharia law in Canada replace Canadian law?
At some point it will, because we have families, we are making babies. You're not. Your population is going down the slump, right? Yeah. And by 2060, according to Pew Research Institute, your research, by 2060, Muslims will be the biggest religious group the world over. Right. What are you going to do then?
Well, we're going to stop that, getting to that point. That's the plan. Make not 3 but 5 children because you are the future of Europe. That's President Erdogan, a NATO ally, the leader of Turkey. What I'm saying is that's Gaddafi saying it, it's Erdogan saying it, it's not Tom Robinson saying it. These are Islamic leaders in every nation, of every organisation, telling them to come to our countries, outbreed, outpopulate. You then are the future. By 2050, the UK and other European nations will have majority Muslim populations. Deception. These are all different elements of Sharia. Okay, deception is an element of Islam. It's another strategy, and it takes several different forms. The myth of the common ground. We hear so much. We believe in Jesus. Yeah? Islam presents itself as a religion seeking common ground with others. See Quran 3:64. Come to a word that is just between us and you, that we worship none but Allah, and that we associate no partners with him. Now, this verse was helpfully revealed to Muhammad in a debate he was having with Christians from Najran in 630 AD. It's the no partners bit that's key. Islam says it wants common ground with Christians, but deny Jesus is the Son of God, a partner. Let me show you this.
That is why when Muslims go and conquer the adjacent country, what do? We kill them all? No. The Prophet says, the first thing you do is call them to Islam. If they refuse, then tell them Allah obliged upon you to pay taxation, jizya. So we take jizya, and in return, when enemy comes and attack your country, you don't fight. We Muslims protect you. And you enjoy sitting in your homes and in your country and live your life normally. But the ruling is for Sharia. If they refuse, then we have to fight. And if we fight you, then we capture you, you become our slaves, and we take your land, and you take because you refuse, I give you 2 good options. This is the strength of Islam. In the coming 40, 50 years, when the Muslims become strong, as they're supposed to be, and they are focused and Islamically oriented.
He gave you 2 good options, didn't he? I mean, come on, what's wrong with you? You could have just been our slaves. Now we've got to kill you. In the case of the Christians at the time of Muhammad in Najran, they wouldn't convert to Islam, but a treaty was signed, and they guaranteed the Christian security for their lives and their religion, their property, providing they paid that special tax, the jizya. It's a bit like when Barack Obama got in power and he went and gave Iran £1.7 billion in cash. I guess that was a form of jizya. That was a form of jizya. We'll pay you, you just crack on, okay? Don't develop nuclear weapons, we'll give you £1.7 billion in cash. We believe in Jesus. How many of you heard Muslims say that? It's a trick, okay? They don't believe in Jesus. It's a deception in statement. Muslims are taught to say this as part of their pitch to convert people to Islam. They don't believe in Jesus. They don't believe Jesus is the Son of God. They don't believe he died on the cross, and they don't believe he rose again on the 3rd day. In fact, believing in Jesus is considered a form of shirk. That's associating partners with Allah. And that's the most serious and unforgivable sin you can actually commit. Forget the rape and murder.
Shirk can occur in rububiyyah
by association, where you say there is another creator besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
He didn't want to be like the Christians. He didn't want to be like the mushrikun, the polytheists, the pagans of Mecca. He wanted the Muslim to be unique and distinct.
The very first problem I see in America, Christianity.
That I will love what Allah loves, and I will hate what Allah hates. When I go outside to make da'wah, I'm not going to go to a Christian to tell them, I hate you. For what? What benefit is going to get? Muhammad ﷺ didn't do it, and Allah didn't tell us to do it. But that does not deny the fact I do.
And the Christians who are complicit and agree and support them, they insult Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let us take these lessons and teach it to our children. Teach them to hate everything about kufr, the holidays, the dress, the manners, and everything.
Shirk in Arabic means associating partners. It is the biggest sin in Islam, and Allah says in the Quran in Surah Nisa, chapter number 4, verse number 48, Allah forgiveth not that you associate partners with Him, but anyone who associates partners with Him has done the most grievous, heinous sin.
Associate partners with him is the most grievous, the worst you can possibly do, believing in Christianity. Again, I could have sat here and give you hours worth of video footage from imams across the United States, in mosques in every state, but we're compelled by time that I can't do that. Now, let me tell you a story. When I was leading the English Defence League in the UK, we were a street protest movement, thousands of young men. There was clashes with the Islamic community. We were raising awareness of some of the problems that were coming out of towns and cities across the UK. I was contacted by Bishop of Pontefract. So under the Queen in the Church of England, there's a list of bishops. One of them, his name was Tom Robinson, crazily enough. The Bishop of Pontefract, he contacted me and said, we want you to come and meet a secret meeting with muftis and the Islamic leaders at a church in Derby in the Midlands in the UK. So I said, fine. It's a clear the air meeting. So I went to the meeting. I walked in, and before we walked in, the bishop was there and another pastor was there. And they said, MI5 and MI6 believe these men are the future leaders of Islam in Britain. They were the leaders of the Deobandi sect of Islam. The Deobandi sect of Islam is what formed the Taliban, yeah? So they're very conservative, very radical form of Islam. So when we went in, it was a clear the air meeting, and we cleared the air. I told them exactly why we're angry, exactly why we're frustrated. But then the church leaders said, which you'll see happening across the United States because it's part of a policy of diversity. They said, we held a joint Christmas dinner. And I said, who did? Us, the Christian leaders and the Muslim community, where we're from, we had a big Christmas dinner together to bring the communities together. Great. That sounds great. Did you have wine? And they looked. I said, you didn't have wine, did you? So you had a Sharia-compliant Christmas dinner because now that's the reality of it. That's the reality because you had Muslims. They do not bend. You bend. You change your culture. You change your beliefs. If they want to come to a Christmas dinner, come to a Christmas dinner. But we're having wine because that's part of our culture and that's part of our tradition. But the warning is, do not be fooled by these diversity programs. Beware of interfaith dialogue. Islam will never, ever give an inch. Then we have, and it's important to understand all these different concepts for those who have no knowledge of what Islam is. Mudarat and Taqiyya. These are doctrines of deception. You see, Muhammad was known as the ultimate deceiver, and he teaches it. Islam teaches to deceive. Mudarat and Taqiyya. Mudarat allows Muslims, when in a minority in a non-Muslim country and society, Britain, America, to be outwardly compliant with local laws and values while internally maintaining something very different. Sharia-based identity. It facilitates the initial establishment of a separate Islamic society with a host nation by minimizing the friction when they are weaker in the early stages of settlement. It supports eventually transforming the host society into a Sharia-compliant one. It's what Muhammad did when he left Medina. It's what Muhammad did. In small numbers, we were nice, get the numbers, bang, we're taking over. Yeah? Quran 3:28. Let not the believers take the disbelievers as friends, except if you indeed fear danger from them. Listen to this.
All those who believe, do not take the Jew and the Christian as your supporter and helper. Ba'aduhum awliya'u ba'd. For they are the helpers of each other. Want to be comfortable in America. Want to be comfortable living with the kuffar. So they do these things.
This friendship of them with one another, that is not
because of their love for one another. But that is based upon enmity with the Muslims. And whosoever will establish a walayat with them, such like friendship, which goes against Islam and Muslims. If that friendship of you is going against the believers, so then that is not allowed.
Can a person keep a close relationship with his previous friends and colleagues before he accepted Islam from school, etc.? No and yes. No, they are not your friends, and they are not allowed to be treated as your friends. The yes part, you keep in relations with them to call them to Islam. But them being your buddies and your friends, that's problematic.
You see, Muslims are not allowed to be friends with non-Muslims. You may have some Muslim friends at university, great. I had some growing up in Luton, yeah? But they're not following Islam. They're not following the teachings, okay? The teachings, I understand, when you see the teachings like this, it's why every single community in the UK or Europe where we have an Islamic community, there's no integration, no assimilation, there's no friendship. I challenge every journalist who ever come to my hometown of Luton, go out and find Muslims with a non-Muslim. Just find me one, other than when they're selling drugs to them or raping them. Find me one. Every group of white boys has blacks with them. Every group of black boys has whites with them. Yeah? We're integrated and assimilated. You'll find all Muslims. My school dinner table, you walked into the dinner hall, in the corner, 6 tables of Muslims. We didn't do that. This is the teachings of Islam. And taqiyya, and you heard him say there, you can remain friends with them, but only to bring them to Islam. So it's false friendship. They're there to corner you, to convert you. Taqiyya is the practice of hiding your faith. You may have heard a lot of people talk about taqiyya. It's the practice of hiding your faith, pretending not to believe, to protect yourself from persecution, threat, or death. Of course, resisting the advance of Islam, so resisting the Islamization of your society, is viewed in their eyes as persecution. In this case, you may show kindness to non-Muslims through words, but not in your heart. So you can be nice, but in your heart, you've got to hate them. Allah warns Muslims of his jealousy and his rage. This is the reason there's zero integration or zero assimilation. Deception. Deception is Sharia. You will notice the strategies of migration and deception are not those of violent and bloody revolution. The strategy of infiltration is exactly the same. Maududi, I spoke about him previously, the renowned 20th century Islamic scholar. He's revered by the Muslim Brotherhood, the Islamic Circle of North America, Hamas, many other extremist terrorist organizations. He and they believe in a gradual and structured movement aimed at preparing a righteous elite to take over and guide state institutions. His strategy involved infiltrating government, bureaucracy, and education systems to replace un-Islamic or secular views with Sharia.
Our victory is going to be one person after another. These Generation Z and millennials and these under the age of 35, within a decade, they're going to be the CEOs. They're going to be the congressmen. Within 20 years, they're going to be in the Senate and in the White House.
You can use democracy to remove democracy. The majority view throughout the world of scholars from all schools of thought is that democracy can be used instrumentally. Now, there's a difference between using something instrumentally as an instrument and believing it's true fully. We make a decision to remove democracy through democracy.
And we are ready to move to the next phase. We have to dedicate professional resources to inform the public systematically about this faith. 4 years from now, the Muslim community will have new 4,000 journalists. We will have 4,000 filmmakers, 4,000 lawyers. 15 years from now, the Muslim community will have 50,000, an army of these people. They will design our image. They will protect the truth and the news. Most likely, many of these people will run for public office and they will become lawmakers. We can have in 10 years at least 40 to 50 members of Congress in the US Congress.
So the work has to be ongoing, that we build the collective Muslim power to ensure we can stop those bills and enact our own agenda of justice and truth.
If we can, we will take it, but in means that the law allows us. I'm here so I can convert America.
That's their plans. They're very open about it. They're not hiding it. Do you know one of them gentlemen care? They're advising your American government. They have been for the last 30 years. Okay? Let me show you how this plays out in the UK. Former Secretary of State for Justice and now Secretary of State for the Home Office. That's our Home Secretary. Muslim. Mayor of London. Muslim. Leader of Scottish National Party. Muslim. First former Minister of Scotland. Muslim. Chairman of Ofsted. This lovely gentleman is in charge of all education in Britain. Okay? Yeah. And I could... Mental. And if I had the time, I would go through every mayor across the UK who is now Muslim. These same plans are being implemented across the United States of America. In America, you have, Andre Carson, Ilhan Omar, hopefully not for long anyway, but Rashida Tlaib, Latifah Simon, and of course, Mandani. The call to prayer across New York will be the least of your worries.
مرحبا، أنا اسمي زهران ممداني وعم رشح حالي ليكون العمدة الجديد في مدينة نيويورك. بعرف شو عم تفكروا، شكلي كأني صهركم من الشام، بس العربي تبعي بده شوية شغل، بس بوعدكم إني رح أشتغل بكل جهدي. أنا منكم وإليكم، سنراكم.
Hey, this is the only Muslim running for mayor. If we win, we'll be the first Muslim ever to be mayor. That's my hopes. We go to the mosques. We organize the mosques. We get the imams to tell people, go vote. We get Zoran to go there and talk to them. That's how we do it. That's how you do it. We go to 100 of them in a week. 100 mosques. And we get young lesbian white women to go and give out flyers at a mosque. It's so good. Yeah. I was like, all right. For this campaign, the thing that we really keyed in on was South Asian Muslim voters and getting them out to vote.
That covert recording was obtained by a friend of mine on a secret date. Okay? That's Mandani's campaign manager. You heard what he said. We go to the mosques. We get the imams to tell them who to vote for. We go to 100 mosques a week. Let me tell you how that plays out. In my town, Luton, we have the leader of the Council of Mosques. There's 45 mosques, but they all come together under a leader. Even though they don't like each other, many of them, different sects, they come together under a leader. That leader sits down with the council, the government, whether it be the Labour Party, your Republican Party, your Democrat Party, and they make demands. You give us this, you give us this, we give you 50,000 votes. Now, Mandani, what they're saying there is we went to the mosques and the imams tell them they are told who to vote for. And they will vote in a military fashion, not like you guys, yeah? The churches aren't doing that. The mosques are doing it in every European country, and they have become such a power force in small numbers. So, infiltration. It sounds mad, right? In 1991, there was a document, the strategic goal of the Muslim Brotherhood. Many of you sitting at home may know about this, many of you may not. Okay? This was found in an FBI raid in 2004. It was at the founder of a mosque in Virginia. The document explained their work in America. A kind of grand jihad, this is in a document found by the police, in a plan for the United States that's been going on for 30 years, 4 years. A kind of grand jihad in eliminating and destroying the Western civilization from within, sabotaging its miserable house by their hands and the hands of the believers. That document was found 22 years ago. Listen to this.
Our objective, our final objective, is to create our own Islamic systems, and not only create Islamic systems for Muslims, but to look at all the other people who are sharing this country with us as potential Muslims. And in that long-range process of making America Muslim, all of America Muslim, then we have to have some actual short-range goals and be very calculated about it, or else we will not accomplish our goals.
1989, C-SPAN, on the channel C-SPAN. They're not hiding this. They've never been hiding this. They're telling us quite clearly they will use democracy, they'll use our suicidal tolerance to destroy our Western civilization whilst we watch. Infiltration is Sharia. And the infiltration goes hand in hand with the total Islamification of your country. Start anywhere you like. Halal, for example. The entire UK food supply chain is halal. The UK has a 6% Muslim population, yet 30% of the abattoirs in the UK are halal. 70% of the lamb sold in the United Kingdom is halal, from a 6% population. Whether you want to eat ritually slaughtered meat or not, in the name of Allah, whether you want to or not, schools, hospitals, supermarkets, Nando's, Subway, KFC, Domino's, all halal. For me to eat in my town centre, I have no choice. It's halal. I was surprised when I recently visited Dallas in Texas to find that exactly the same is already happening there in Texas. That's the thing about Islam. It's not that they want freedom to live their way. They require you to live their way. And they're slowly Islamify everything. Education. We're in a centre of education now. Billions of dollars of foreign investment. Remember, the UK head of education standards is this wonderful gentleman. From the age of 6, every child in the United Kingdom, as part of national curriculum, every child has to visit a mosque. What's that look like? It's coming in.
We found out that a document called Sharing the Journey, Faith Sensitivities, was sent to head teachers in the North to tell them that figurative imagery of humans is considered blasphemy for Muslims, that they should start considering to protect their Muslim and other faith pupils. So, for example, they should have single-sex women, not mixed women. But they should also not give children roles in nativity plays that might make them feel uncomfortable. And they shouldn't, in lessons, use drawings of Jesus, because Jesus was actually a prophet for Islam, and that might upset everybody.
That's right. And this is happening, this is coming to the United States, okay? But this is national curriculum in the UK. This is every single school child. They're taken to mosques in the name of diversity and understanding. They're given homework. Some of these examples, which are going to sound unbelievable, homework given to children at school who are 10 or 11 years old, was to write to their parents to inform them that they have become a Muslim. They're also invited to wear the hijab. When women in Iran are fighting and dying to take off the hijab to free themselves, they're being slaughtered, and our children are being made to wear it in schools across Europe. And Qatar. The money flows in from Qatar. Oxford University, King's College London, Imperial College London, Queen's Mary London, Cranfield, Northumbria, Reading, Aberdeen, Liverpool, Derby, Ulster. They support Arabic teaching in British schools. Qatar is funding all of our education system. And Georgetown University. It's exactly the same here. Georgetown, Northwestern, Virginia, Commonwealth, Texas A&M. And look what's happening on university campuses across the United States. Look what happened after October 7th. Look what we saw in every single university, in every single Western capital nation. Let's be clear. Qatar is not your friend. Their money buys influence. They shape the teaching agenda. They brainwash young minds. Or take the law. There's a pressure to consider Islamic views or just allow Sharia law in their own communities. Say for family matters, little by little, inch by inch. I'll come back to that in a little while. There are over 100 Sharia law courts operating in my country at home. Building mosques. That's a massive mosque in Texas. Please don't think of mosques as the equivalent of churches. They're not. They are command and control centres. They control the Muslim population. They tell them how to behave. They discipline them. And they tell them how to vote.
Minareler süngü. Kubbeler miğfer.
Minarets are the bayonets.
Camiler kışlamı.
The mosques are our barracks. The believers are the soldiers.
Müminler asker.
The dome is the helmet.
Soyuz ki imanıyla övündüğümüz ecdadımız titretici şeylere hiçbir gün diz çökmemiş.
Again, you don't have to listen to me saying what the mosque is. That's the leader of Turkey. It's a NATO ally. Okay, he's telling you quite clearly. It's a barracks. The mosque is our barracks. You know, every single Islamic jihad war, every one of them. Where does it come from? It's launched from a Friday in a mosque. All the time. Okay? Very different to churches. You can't confuse the two. And in the UK, the majority of imams, 90% of them cannot speak English. So the imams in the mosques cannot speak English. Most mosques, 844 of them, in my country are Deobandi. That's the same sect that gave birth to the Taliban. Most services are preached in Urdu. Who's funding these mosques? Who's funding the mosques in Texas? Who's funding the mosques across the United States? All this comes under the banner of religious freedom, tolerance and diversity. They'll use your freedoms against you. And don't forget their massive investment strategies in assets in the UK. The Shard, Canary Wharf, Harrods, 4,000 land titles. Qatar owns more land in our capital city than the royal family do. Stakes in Heathrow Airport, Barclays Bank, British Airways, owned by Qatar. Sainsbury's supermarket, the second largest supermarket in the UK. Selfridges, all these things by influence and by control. And by the way, you can forget having dogs. Okay? Forget having dogs. Let's see Hadith. Sahih, authentic, again. Angels do not enter a house wherein there is a dog or a picture of a living creature. This is an authentic Hadith. Dogs are considered ritually unclean. Another example of forcing their culture on an entire society. Have a look at this.
Yeah, I can smell that. Do you mind eating that somewhere else? I'm fasting.
That's not my concern.
Yeah, but I'm fasting though.
So why are you out?
What do you mean why am I out?
If you're fasting, you should be indoors.
Yeah, but
I'm eating my lunch and you come and disturb me.
Yeah,
What for?
yeah, but I can smell it.
زبارة يوضع أكسس والله جو تكون حلو في ناس زonder schaamte والله.
How come you're eating, boss? It's Ramadan, boss. Huh?
Yeah, study Ramadan.
It's Ramadan. This is no good. Ramadan. Muslim.
I know that. I study.
You're Muslim, yeah?
No.
Now, I could show you video after video after video. I'm trying to get you to understand that when it becomes a dominant Islamic community, you don't need the imams handing down the punishment for Sharia, because it will be handed down and confronted by the followers who want Sharia. Islamification of every aspect of your life. This is Sharia. Now, terrorism. Terror. Terror is a major part. Have a look at the Quran, 8:112. I will cast terror into the hearts of those who have disbelieved. That's Muhammad, okay? Sahih Bukhari, again, Sahih, authentic. The words of Muhammad, I have been made victorious with terror. It doesn't sound very much like Jesus Christ turned the other cheek, does it? Okay? Let me read you out these. Let me have a look at some events, just so we can look through Britain. The 7/7 bombings. The on-street beheading of Fusilier Rigby. The Charlie Hebdo journalist massacre in Paris. The Bataclan Theatre massacre in Paris. Brussels subway bombing in Belgium. The Nice truck massacre in France. Berlin terror attack in Germany. Attack in Parliament in London. The Ariana Grande concert, where 26 children were blown to pieces in Manchester. The London Underground bombing, 52 murdered. The London Bridge and Borough Market massacre. The Southport massacre. The throat cutting of Father Jacques Hamal in his church in France. The beheaded schoolteacher, Samuel Paty, who was beheaded for blasphemy whilst teaching children in a school in France. These are just a few attacks that make the news, but the mayhem and the murder are daily events. In spite of all of this, all of these attacks in my home country, all of the terrorism, all of the jihad, since the time of Winston Churchill, not one single member of parliament has mentioned, we have 650 members of parliament, not one has mentioned Islam. Not one has demanded an inquiry into Islam. Not one has had the discussion of Sharia. Not one. Not one with all of this evidence. That's the level of fear that is implemented. That's the level of self-censorship. Jihad and Sharia are being waged against us whilst everyone remains silent. In the UK, 91% of the people on a terror watch list follow Islam. That's 40,000 Muslims. 40,000 British Muslims are on a terror watch list. Now, 3,000 of them monitored 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That costs £9 billion a year. It's just a numbers game. If we double the Muslim population, we'll have 80,000. We only have 70,000 members of our armed forces. Okay? Now, they make up 6% of the population, but 91% of the terrorists are on a watch list.
In the past 25 years, 94% of all terror murders in the UK have been committed by Islamist terrorists, who also make up 75% of counter-terrorism caseloads. So does the Home Secretary share my concern that the PREVENT caseload is only 10% Islamist in nature, And if she does share my concern, what does she propose to do about that?
A politician having this conversation just 2 years ago was unthinkable. As I said, 30 years we've had jihad and terrorism. Nothing. There's been a cultural revolution brewing in Britain. Something huge is happening. We can get onto this in the Q&A. But these questions are now being asked. Now, the point he makes, if 91% of terrorism is Islamic, how come 10%, only 10% of Prevent Load? Prevent is an organisation set up by the government to prevent people being drawn into extremism and terrorism. It's a terrorism organisation, yeah? Let me tell you a story of about a young 16-year-old boy who went to Speaker's Corner. I know the boy. His name's Harry. He went to Speaker's Corner in London. Speaker's Corner, you have your constitution, so you all have free speech. We don't, okay? But we have one area of London where you're meant to have free speech. It's called Speaker's Corner. Now, he went there and his words were, Islam is violent. For that, at his house, counter-terrorism, Prevent, this organisation, went knocking at his door. So I'm in a group chat with him. He's a young football hooligan, yeah? There's lots of young I'm in a group chat. And in the group chat, he said, counter-terrorism police have turned up at my house. His mum had a breakdown, crying her eyes out. She obviously thinks her son's involved in terrorism. All he said is Islam's violent, yeah? So why are 90% of the referrals ordinary English people who are opening their mouths and having a discussion? We'll get onto this. We have 30 arrests a day for social media posts, 12,000 a year for social media posts. Russia has 800 a year. Yeah? Social media posts. And that's coming here as well, because I've seen some videos of police knocking on doors about this as well. But why, according to the UK government, the people who... Do you know, when I sat down with members of Congress, I've gone through all their messages. Every single one of them would have been on a counter-terrorism, prevent, rethinking, re-education programme in Great Britain for their tweets. 100% with what they've said. Now, what that does... What does that do? When that 16-year-old boy and everyone he knows, counter-terrorism police have knocked at his door, it installs fear across the country. No one wants counter-terrorism police knocking at their door. No one wants them turning up at your work, do you? Because you've said something, like Islam's violent. Well, they're terrified of Islam and what will kick off, because they should be addressing, we've just found out today in a report today that Axel Rudakabana, the man who stabbed 3 children to death, he had an Al-Qaeda manual under his pillow. He had rice in. We were told it wasn't terrorism. We were told it had nothing to do with Islam. And it took 3 months. They knew the truth. Riots happened in Great Britain because of the anger and frustration, because we knew they were lying. And we now find out, which we knew anyway, was that they should have dealt with him, could have dealt with him, but they scared to deal with him because they didn't want to be labelled as racist. They knew he was a violent threat to people, but they didn't deal with him because they didn't want to be branded racist. Of course, much closer to home in the United States, you've had the unspeakable horror of 9/11. You've had the Boston Marathon bombing, the San Bernardino attack, the Orlando, Florida nightclub massacre, the New York and New Jersey bombings, the Ohio State University attack, the New York City truck attack, the stabbing of Salman Rushdie, the New Orleans truck attack. Recently, you had 4 successful terrorist attacks in 2 weeks. 4. You have a 1% Muslim population. It's a numbers game. If you had a 10% Muslim population, you'd probably have 40 attacks. That's the reality. I could go on. And there will be many more attacks on your soil. What do we do? What are we meant to do? What do they tell us to do? Light a candle? Hold a vigil? Carry on without addressing or discussing this problem? The problem is part of Islamic doctrines.
My dear Muslim brothers and sisters, terrorism is part and parcel of Islam. To terrify the enemies of Allah, we should prepare ourselves.
We're commanded to terrorize the disbelievers. And this is a religion, like I said.
Commanded to terrorize the...
And the Quran says very clearly in the Arabic language, Turhibuna. This means terrorize them. It's a command from Allah.
Community leaders have been speaking to the police as well because...
Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
But I think, apologies for the language you're hearing, but a sense of the anger, I think you can hear there.
Yeah, Katie, I think Becky, I apologise. We need to leave you there, and Becky will have security.
Hide the reality from the public. These are all scenes from across the UK. You see, we have a fifth column in the UK. Once their numbers are large enough, once the Muslims realise the state is frightened of them, which it is, it's too late. The police don't act. They can't act. Their only option is appeasement. You know, last summer...
Salam alaikum. In recent talks with elders and leaders of your community...
Salam alaikum. Good morning, everyone, and thank you to the leaders and elders that have afforded me this opportunity to speak to you personally.
I want you to know that we have listened to you and that we are here for you, and we will continue to provide you with support, and our specialist community engagement officers have been in regular contact throughout the last week with your elders to ensure your safety.
So I must say a huge thank you to the community elders and leaders of Moss who have played a key role in giving me support, information, and most importantly, guidance as to the impact that some of these protests have had on local communities. So I stand with you and I ask you to make sure that the police deal with these issues.
Every city, every council, every police force have surrendered in the UK. They don't know what to do. Do you know last summer when those Muslim gangs were rioting across the UK, there were no batons drawn on them. There were no attacks against them. They're treated totally different. In fact, if it wasn't for Elon Musk and X, no one would have ever seen any of those videos because they were never published. The news never reported it. They mobilised in towns and cities across the UK and they went out on the streets and they beat non-Muslims to the ground. They stabbed some and nothing made our media or our news. Now, Islamophobia. Islamophobia is a key strategy. Islam pushes for it. They are so readily offended by any criticism of Islam, probably everything I'm saying tonight, yeah? Even though I'm drawing you to verses from the Quran and I'm showing you what they're saying, not actually what I'm saying. They want to prevent any examination, any criticism of their ideology, which is the motherlode of bad ideas, in the famous words of Sam Harris. Criticism of Islam is branded as hate speech in the UK. You can get arrested. As I previously told you, 30 arrests a day, 12,000 prosecuted a year. The government embraces the term Islamophobia. Since I've been in the United States, they've passed a new SAR. And this is at the misguided hope of keeping the lid on dissent. The UK has implemented an Islamophobia definition. Everything I've said so far, quotes, facts from the Quran, showing videos of Islamic preachers, will probably result in arrest. They don't even want us to be able to have the discussion on these problems. And it all has a chilling effect. It creates a spiral of silence. People see the consequences of speaking out, like I told you earlier about the 16-year-old boy at Speaker's Corner. People see what happened to him. Crushing dissent does not bring peace. It does the total opposite. It fuels anger in people who are not being heard. The majority of us whose lives are being destroyed. Many of you will know the same effect is already here. It's a genuine fear. Fear of being ridiculed, fear of being cancelled, and increasingly in the UK, fear of losing your job. Or being arrested, prosecuted in prison. Maybe for some students, fear of losing your position in the university for speaking openly and freely. Your intelligence agencies in the United States, see, because speech is everything and words matter. Let me just show you this. The CIA, the NSA, FBI, the DHS, the Department of Justice. Internal docs show entire intelligence community warned to avoid problematic phrases on Islamic terrorism. So, Islamic organisations, extremist ones, who you saw some of them speaking earlier, have been lobbying your security services when Barack Obama was in, and they were successful in having the word jihad removed, Islamic terrorism, okay? Certain phrases, Islamic extremists, they don't want to hurt Muslims' feelings. You're not going to be able to deal with the problem if you can't even talk about the problem. It started with Obama, and then Biden doubled down. So let's just say it how it is. Islamic extremists have been advising the United States government on how they can talk about Islamic extremists. You're not even allowed to use certain language now or you'll counter-terrorism legislation. And when they say you, or I, or any of us are Islamophobic, 64% of the Quran talks about us. We need an opinion on it. We need to understand it. It talks about how we should be fought against. It talks about how we should be subdued. How women, including our women, should be treated. Of course, we're going to have an opinion on their instruction manual that tells them how to conquer and subdue us. It's intimidation, the silencing, and it has horrific consequences. Islamic gangs raped their way through my country for 40 years. Thousands of young white girls raped, pillaged, murdered, tortured in every town and city, covered up by the police, social services, local councils, members of parliament, the government itself, for over 40 years. I've made a 5-part documentary series called The Rape of Britain. It's a 5-part. You can watch them at trfilms.co.uk. But all of this has real geopolitical consequences. If you look now, which countries recognised the so-called Palestinian state? France? Britain? Why do you think they did that? They now have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 9 million members of this community who demand, through threats of violence, through intimidation. Who didn't stand with America in your battle against Iran, the most supremacist, dangerous nation that's funded Islamic jihad across the world, that wants to get their hands on a nuclear weapon? Which countries didn't stand with you? That's always stood with you. France, Britain, Germany, all the countries that have imported millions and millions and millions of Muslims into their country who are hostile to them. They're terrified of the violence that would erupt on our own streets if they stood by their principled values and stood for the truth. We have imported a 5th column, more men than the police and the army put together, organised, trained and ready. The UK government know, it's factual, same as your borders when Joe Biden had them open. They were open to Al-Qaeda, ISIS, the Taliban, the Houthis, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. These are all facts. We know they're coming through our borders. They're on our shores, they're armed, and they're on our soil. Do you know ISIS? 4 times as many British Muslims in a 3-year period went to fight for ISIS than have ever joined our British military in 50 years. 4 times as many went to join. You know, in research in the UK on how Muslims think, 64% of British Muslims would not report on a fellow Muslim joining ISIS. That's the majority again. Every Western nation needs to recognise we're at war and take these enemy combatants out. Intimidation. Intimidation is Sharia, and Western civilization is at stake. Elements of Sharia. So let's now turn to the specifics of Sharia or Islamic law, because to implement Sharia is to establish Islam in the nation. It's happened in the UK. All the strategies mentioned, every one of them I've gone through, they're deployed in Britain. There's over 100 Sharia law courts or councils in the UK right now dispensing Sharia or Islamic justice. Now, the all-party parliamentary group, they've done a report and are commissioned by the Home Secretary in 2018, so 8 years ago. And their report concluded they have no idea exactly how many Sharia councils are operating in the UK. It's not a surprise. Cultural change is required to recognise women's rights. Their rulings are at odds with English law, but banning them is not a viable option. Sharia courts should regulate themselves. That's what the Home Secretary's report investigating these Sharia courts in our country, that was the advice. By the way, the panel of this group that investigated the Sharia courts, well, there's a Muslim theologian. 2 of the 4-person panel members, including the chair, were Muslims, and the named advisors to the panel were both Muslims. Genius. So the government instructed Muslims to tell us how to stop the Sharia law courts that they all follow and adhere to. Insanity. America, do not sit down with imams to work out how to stop Sharia law in the United States of America because they all want it. And in the UK, those Sharia law courts, they're still operating. Because under Islam, there can be no man-made law. There is only Sharia. I'm now going to briefly touch the 9 manifestations of Sharia that demonstrate it's completely incompatible with your current laws, your freedoms, your equality under law, democracy, and the nation state of America. I want to be fair. Sahih Muslim, one of the authentic hadiths, let's see. It is not permissible to take the life of a Muslim. Okay, sounds good. Except in one of 3 cases. The married adulterer, a life for a life, a revenge for a murder, and the deserter of his din, the deserter of Islam. That means if he changed his mind, by the way, yeah? So then you can kill him, okay? Islam is clear about killing other Muslims. You mustn't do it unless they leave Islam or they're married and have sex outside the marriage, or revenge for murder. If you're not married and have sex, as part of Islam puts it, illegal sexual intercourse, you just get 100 lashes. I guess that's fair. Where are the feminists? By the way, this is Islam. This is Islam. These are the teachings of Islam, it's the scripture of Islam, and it's the practice of Sharia. If you're married, it's stoning to death. Listen to this.
Her that she is punished and she is stoned to death. And according to the Sharia again, when it comes to women, there must be a hole dug in the earth, in the ground, and she must be covered up to the half of the body, so that her satar does not appear.
Very detailed explanation in how far she has to be buried. That's a mosque in my country. That's the imam, a mosque that has a Sharia court in Birmingham, our second city in the UK, that all of our politicians visit and celebrate and have their photos taken for diversity. They're teaching that right now. And they're teaching it in mosques across the United States of America. Stoning for infidelity, it's Sharia. 40% of British Muslims in the UK want Sharia. That's 2 million people that need to leave our country. Child marriage. Child marriage is a key issue. In chapter 65 of the Quran, that's the rules from Allah on divorce, and I'm going to say this slowly for you all. Verse 4 details how long you have to wait before marrying a divorced child who is so young they haven't started their periods. So they've been married and then they've got divorced before they've even started puberty. Something's gone wrong in that marriage before they've even started. Let's look at the Quran 65:4. And for those who have no courses, periods, and they are still immature, their iddah, that's their prescribed waiting period, is 3 months. That is Allah, Muhammad, telling Muslims how long they have to wait before they remarry a child that hasn't yet started their puberty. Of course, child marriage had to be allowed by Allah because the authoritative hadith, the Sahih, the authentic hadiths collections record numerous times that the Prophet Muhammad married her when she was 6 years old and he consummated that marriage when she was 9 years old. So Muhammad married Aisha at 6. Again, not Tommy Robinson's opinion. This is authentic Islamic scripture. It's authentic. It's what they believe. And then he raped her when she was 9. Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim both translate that. Remember, he's the perfect example for all of mankind at all of time. Listen to this.
Okay, so what's the proper counter-argument to these people who want to accuse the Prophet ﷺ of some kind of misbehavior because of his marriage to Aisha, and they want to compare it to now? Okay. So there are a number of responses to this. Number one, Aisha was matured. She was physically mature at age 9. And that's very different than people who want to molest little kids in the closet. Okay? That's not the same as marrying someone who is physically mature. This is a myth. Again, an image that's, a 9-year-old is like a little toddler. No, a 9-year-old who has gone through puberty is not a toddler. And you can go to the public schools and they're sexually active.
An investigation by ITV has uncovered disturbing evidence that forced marriages for underage girls are being sanctioned by the leaders of some of Britain's mosques. Investigators from the Exposure programme found that out of 56 mosques they contacted, 18 would conduct a ceremony involving a 14-year-old girl.
She's 14. Sharia ne torte, alhamdulillah, she's legal to get married. There's nothing against that. We're doing it because it's okay through Islam.
Covered up, Parwana whimpers as her mother holds her. This is your bride, please take care of her, says Parwana's father. Of course I will take care of her, replies the man. His large hands grab her small frame.
This is happening in Britain. This is happening in America. Do not be deterred or fearful of speaking about this through accusations. Tommy Robinson's a racist. I saw on the banners outside here. I don't care. Call me what you want. Yeah, this is wrong, and it's happening, and it's growing, and it's going to continue to grow, and it must be challenged. In fact, there is no minimum age in Islam for marriage. Every major Islamic school of thought agrees with me on that. Yeah, you saw 40% of mosques in the UK will marry children who have not even met adult men with children. And his words in that undercover recording, British law, no, this is not allowed in British law, but we don't care about British law. Sharia. We care about Sharia. Child marriage is Sharia. Beyond sex and child marriage, what does Islam and Sharia, what else does it have to offer? Women's rights. There's a lot to say here. Muslims will tell you men and women are equal but different, which doesn't sound unreasonable, does it? Sounds quite fair. But let's have a look at what the sacred texts say. Quran 4:3. Husbands can have up to 4 wives, not the other way round. So we can marry 4 women, you lot, just one. My local imam has 3 wives and 14 children, and we're paying for every one of them, yeah? Quran 33:50. Interestingly, Allah told Muhammad that there was no constraint on the number of wives he could have. He had 12, yeah? Muhammad had 12. Does anyone else think some of the revelations from Allah are a little bit suspicious? Even his wife, Aisha, the child that he raped, believed it was suspicious. When Allah said Muhammad could have as many wives as he wanted, and he could put off sex with one to spend more time with another, listen to what she said. I feel that your Lord hastens in fulfilling your wishes and your desires, Muhammad. So she cottoned on to this little barbarian. A husband can divorce his wife by saying talak 3 times. And we've seen videos of this in the UK. So if a man wants to divorce a woman, talak, 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 see you later, get your bags, go, yeah? Whereas the woman, she has to go to the imam, and then she gets sent back to the violent husband so many times. Men have authority over women in terms of disobedience and requiring respect. Men are greater than women, you see. Men are greater than women. The list goes on. That's Quran 4:34. All these different Quranic verses tell them these beliefs. They're not making it up. If women misbehave, the Quran tells them, deprive that lady of sex. After you deprive them of sex, if that doesn't work, beat them. That's what it says in the Quran. How do they beat their wife?
The next step is now you start applying pressure on her. Let her know that her attitude is not welcome. If that doesn't work, then the Quran says, وَضْرِبُوهُنْ. If that doesn't work, as a last resort, hit them.
قضية الضرب دي شبهة خطيرة جدا. نعم. واحدة معانا مولانا. أقول إن الله كرم المرأة بهذه العقوبة عقوبة الضرب. كيف؟ كرمها بالضرب؟ اي والله. مش معقول. كيف؟ قال نبينا صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وسلم ولا
Don't make her ugly, don't beat her in the face, just kick shit out of her body.
ولا تقبح.
Allah said.
شوف كرمها. إن ضربها لا يضربها على وجهها حتى وهو يضربها لا يسبها ولا يشتمها. عجيب.
Oh, man. Your wives are a tilth for you, so go and plough them whenever you want. The wife has no option but to agree. When the man wants to have sex, she has to. You can have sex with your wife whenever and however you want. Now, the Hilali and Khan translations of the Quran, they explain in the footnotes, as long as it's not in the anus. That's what it actually says in the footnotes when they're talking about this. A woman's testimony is worth half of a man's because women are forgetful and have deficient minds. It's not me saying this. Muhammad said every part of this, okay? Let's listen.
وأيضا عموما الرجال عموما أكمل عقلا. فالنبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال أهل العلم الآن بيقولوا حتى المخ في أطباء هنا بيحاسبون الآن على الكلام اللي عند المرأة حجما أصغر من الرجل، فخلقنا من ضلع وإن أعوج ما في الضلع أعلاه، إن ذهبت تقيمه كسرته. يعني
Quran 4:11. For the male, what is equal to the share of two females. What that means is if you have a brother and a sister and the parents die, the female gets 50% less than the man. The boy gets double. Yeah? This is the equality in Islam. And that is being practiced and taught and handed down within inheritance. Because what they want to say in the UK is, well, let's recognise these Sharia courts for marriage and inheritance. Well, let's give away with all the decades and decades and decades that women have fought for equal rights for this crazy caveman mentality. And then we can see other verses. Let's have a look. Quran 24:31. And tell the believing women to lower their gaze, not to show off their adornment, except only that which is apparent, like palms of hands, or one eye, or both eyes for necessity, to see the way. Let them not stamp their feet so as to reveal what they hide. Don't get your breasts jumping, right? This is the Quran. Women must cover themselves, except for perhaps one eye, so they can see where they're going, and they must not cover their own. Just walking away with their breasts, right? This is no longer confined to Afghanistan, Yemen, or Iran, okay? This is London. This is Houston. Women must cover themselves so they don't lead men astray. Misogyny, wife beating, inequality, oppression, all Sharia. Sexual slavery. Allah gives us a lot of rules about sex and illegal sex. Quran 4:24 again. Also forbidden for sex are women or already married, except those your right arm possesses. Again, Quran 70:28, 30. Except with their wives and the captives, the slaves. So Muhammad tells them, Allah tells Muhammad, you can take sexual slaves. For them you are blameless. The Quran verse actually says it. The clear Quran says, or those living under your control. You're free. It uses the term malakat, to control or possess, which Allah also uses elsewhere in the Quran for the subjugation of animals. Allah reveals the attributes of Muslims who will be successful to include those who guard their chastity, except from their wives or the slaves that their right hand possesses. For then they are free from blame. Allah makes it clear chastity is to be guarded except in the case of wives or women that they possess, those under their control, in which case we can engage in sexual intercourse free from blame. All Islamic scholars, Abbas, Jalaluddin, the two Jalals, Maududi, they explain sex with women under your control is allowed without limit on numbers and without blame. The depravity of sexual slavery comes from directly from these verses. All the actions you see happening, ISIS, Boko Haram, Rotherham, Telford, every city across the UK. Listen to this.
A well-organized sex slave supply chain has now been exposed. Here's a report.
The Islamic State did not just come to kill our women and girls, but they took us as war booty, as merchandise to be exchanged.
Female slaves as having a secondary status, even below this, and that their consent did not matter in this relationship. They were fully owned, and the master had the right to all of the women.
أصل الحرب من النساء هم ملك اليمين، بمعنى إن عشان أذلهم بيصبحوا ملكا للقائد أو للجيش أو للمسلم يستمتع بيهم كما يستمتع بزوجهم.
Now, Rotherham, the sex gangs, the rape gangs, all of these problems that are happening. Let me just give you some statistics. 3% Muslim men in the UK, 3% Muslim men. 90% of convictions of rape gangs. 90% from 3%. 30% of the UK rapists in these gangs are called Mohammed. Germany, 3.5% Muslim population, 54% of rapes. Germany's borders were opened in 2017. Between 2017 and 2022, rapes went up 45%. Austria, 4% Muslim male population, 50% of rapes, Muslim men. Paris, 77% of rapes last year in the capital, Muslim men. Sweden, 4% Muslim men, 63% of rapes. This is where it's coming from. It's coming from scripture. Here's some staggering numbers. In the UK in 2003, we had 8,000. In 2003, we had 8,000 rapes. In 2023, we had 88,000 rapes. You can literally, in Sweden in 1975, they had 350 rapes. Last year, they had 32,000 rapes. You can literally draw a graph with Islamic immigration and the rape stats going through the roof. Could sex with another woman under your control without limit on numbers? These doctrines, these verses, because that has something to do with the 40-year rape jihad that my country has faced. Sexual slavery is Sharia. Now, FGM, who's heard of female genital mutilation? You need to, because it's happening here in the United States. 55,000 British children have been victims of female genital mutilation. We have 137,000 cases in the UK, but 55,000 British children. Now, we haven't had a law that makes that illegal for 40 years, 30 years. Carries a 15-year prison sentence. How many people out of the 55,000 children that have had this done to them, that is where their clitorises have been cut off because they're not supposed to enjoy sex, they're just supposed to have babies. Yeah? 99% of women in Somalia have had this done to them. In Minnesota, probably 99% there as well. But the problem is, when you look at these statistics, it's already a problem that's too big for our government to do anything about. Because if they were to lock up the parents like they should, then every single prison place in our entire country is filled. So out of the 55,000 children who have had this done to, how many prosecutions do you think there's been? 3. The UK government is so frightened it will not draw a line anywhere on anything with Islam. Anywhere. Children rape, FGM, terrorism, prevent, all the issues I'm talking about. Terror, misogyny, child marriage, sexual slavery, FGM. They're not the only benefits to society from Islamic immigration. Of course, we also have anti-Semitism. There's so many Quranic verses for this, but Quran 60:40. We have rejected you, and there has started between us and you hostility and hatred forever until you believe in Allah. Islamic doctrines require Muslims to hate Jews. More than half the Quran is concerned with the Jews. It declares them. This is what the Quran says about Jews. So don't pretend it's about Israel. No one needs to pretend it's about 1948 or Israel. It declares Jews to be disbelieving, Muslim-hating, polytheist, shirk-loving, Allah-mocking, prophet-killing, covenant-breaking, sin-loving, witchcraft-practicing, warmongering, scripture-corrupting, truth-hiding, lying, greedy, money-lending, rebellious, blasphemous, hard-hearted people. Mein Kampf was 7% Jew hatred. The Quran is 11%. Okay? It's nothing new. Everything I just said to you is written within Islamic sacred texts. It's perhaps for those reasons that Allah has cursed Jews as the worst of Allah's creation, forbidden Muslims from being friends or helpers of Jews, warned Muslims if they do, they are not real Muslims, and ordered Muslims to fight the Jews and the Christians till they submit, convert, or of course pay the jizya. Jew hatred is Sharia. Apostasy. You have to be killed if you leave Islam. There is no freedom of religion. You're not allowed to change your mind. Yeah? It's punishment. Let me show you a video here quickly.
These are the faces of the British victims of so-called honour killings. I'm saying so-called because the word honour has no place in any discussion about murder and abuse. There are an estimated 12 victims each year in the UK, mostly young women, who are accused of shaming their family.
We have people ringing that have had relationships that are disproved by family members. We have people who are divorcing and their family won't allow them, or their community won't allow them to divorce.
There are around 5,000 each year across the world, largely from South Asia, the Middle East and North Africa.
We have victims of forced marriage who are very concerned that they're going to be taken out of the country and forced into marriages.
So many honor killings would remain unsolved because the family or community is not going to report it in the first place. There is collusion within that community or that family. They're going to stay quiet about it.
Although the crimes committed in the UK are not as high as other countries, there's evidence that it's a bigger problem than we thought.
Muhammad said, whoever changes his religion from Islam, put him to death. It's Hotel California. You can check out anytime you want, but you can never leave, yeah? In Afghanistan, Iran, Malaysia, Maldives, Mauritius, Nigeria, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, and Yemen, leaving Islam is punishable by death. It's the same in the UK and other Western nations. Now, those honour killings every year, that installs fear into every other Muslim woman from enjoying themselves, relaxing, or experience freedom. Enslavement is Sharia. Church attacks. Now, between 2022 and 2024, there were 9,000 criminal attacks against churches in the UK. Do you know in that same period how many attacks there were against mosques? 2. Do you know the British government gave the Muslim community 60 million to guard their mosques? Do you know how much they give the churches? 5. Churches are burning in every Western nation. Doesn't even make the news. It doesn't even make the news. Now, let me have a look at Keir Starmer's tweet here, yeah? Because some builders walked into a mosque in Manchester. I am concerned to hear of the incident at Manchester Central Mosque last night. I know this will be worrying for the Muslim communities, especially during Ramadan, a time of peace and reflection. My thanks go to the volunteers and emergency services. We have provided 40 million in funding for additional security at mosques, Muslim schools and community centres, and we will continue to act to ensure. Let's see the next message. So 40 million quick. It wasn't a terrorist attack. It was builders. Police confirm incident not being treated as terror-related. The government, all of them, are pandering to them. Now, take a look at this.
One part of town, Ramesa and his associates have set up so-called Sharia patrols to go out and discourage behavior that they deem un-Islamic. On this night, they stopped to talk to a couple of non-Muslim men who were in a park drinking beer, which is forbidden under Islam.
Remove yourself away from the mosque. Go away from the mosque now. Muslim patrol. Muslim patrol. Don't be allowing us to puke outside the mosque. This is Muslim area. Do you understand? Do you understand what we're saying? It's a Muslim patrol. Muslim patrol. Move away from the mosque. I don't care if you're appalled at all.
Muslim patrol. It's Great Britain.
This we don't care. It's not so Great Britain. Not so Great Britain. Do you understand? Vigilantes implementing Islam upon your own necks.
That's Sharia patrols in central London. So drinking alcohol, what you wear, being visibly gay or Jewish, walking your dog or eating during Ramadan. Sharia is enforced by street-level violent gangs. And when the cameras are off, that is a video of an American tourist. I showed you it because he's an American tourist being violently beaten and attacked because he walked through a Muslim ghetto with a beer. Sharia enforcement isn't confined to just Europe.
Residents in New York say they're alarmed after seeing Muslim community patrols driving through their neighborhoods in what looked like police squad cars.
New Yorkers say they're shocked after seeing Muslim patrol cars roaming their neighborhoods like police squads. These Muslim community patrols just began operating in Brooklyn this year, and according to the Council on American Islamic Relations, they are the first of their kind in the United States.
This is the start, America. The idea is here, the followers are here, and they will implement it. The point I want to make to you is across the UK, you don't need courts dishing out Sharia justice because innocent civilians, women are being raped, men are being beaten for going against the rules of Sharia in Islamic ghettos, just trying to walk home. Now, the economic burden of immigration is a choice. You decide who comes into your country, and America, you decide if they're going to benefit your country. Let me give you some stats for Germany. Germany had 40,000 Japanese migrants. And in a year, in 2023, they had 2 criminal convictions. 2, maybe 4 criminal convictions. They had 25,000 Algerians, and they had 1,790 convictions for violent offences. Okay? So 1 in every 10,000 it was. 1 in every 10,000 Japanese were involved in a violent offence, and 1 in every 15 from Algeria were involved in a violent offence. The test has been done, America. The test has been done. Europe's been used as a playing ground. You can see there's been a multi-generational burden put on the taxpayer. So Holland have done an investigation to show Muslim immigration into Holland. First generation, burden on the state. Second generation, burden on the state. Third generation, burden on the state. It doesn't change. You've seen the figures in Minnesota. 81% of the Somali community on benefits. Many of them been there 10 years, still don't speak a word of English. So the conclusion. Do you want oppression of women, misogyny, child marriage, sexual slavery, anti-Semitism, religious intolerance, female genital mutilation, honour killings? Do you want that to be your legacy? I want to be very clear. Islam is incompatible with freedom. Islam is incompatible with equality under the law. There is only one law of Allah, Sharia, and there is no equality for women and no equality for non-Muslims. Islam is incompatible with your constitution. Islam is incompatible with democracy. And it's incompatible with the United States of America and every other Western nation. Even the European Union worked this out in 2007, I believe, in the European Court of Human Rights. They've done an investigation. They found that Sharia law was incompatible with Western democracy and freedom due to their views on women, homosexuals, and free speech. Yet still, Islam floods our nations. It's not enough to declare these things. It's not enough to legislate that Islam and Sharia are incompatible with Western civilization. The UK has the legislation to protect freedom, to protect women and children. And look at the state of our country. My simple message for you is this, and please listen carefully, because I have watched this disaster unfold in my home country and my hometown for 40 years. Please don't find yourself watching this video in 10 years' time saying, why did we not listen? When the problem has got worse, wishing you had done something. Your children and your grandchildren will ask you, what did you do to save America, mummy? Islam is not a religion. It's a hostile, totalitarian, political ideology that seeks to conquer and dominate every aspect of private, public, and national life. As I said, not my view. That's the Islamic doctrine's view. As long as it's protected as a religion, it will exploit suicidal Western tolerance. I urge you to push through. This is I'm finishing now, but these are the points I urged Congress, because I know I had to look at the legalities and laws. I urge them to push for an immediate pause on immigration from Muslim majority nations, a crackdown on illegal immigration and the Muslim Community Deportation Act, vetting to require foreign legal codes to be renounced for all visa applications and naturalisation candidates, a hard stop on all federal grants for any institutions, mosques, schools receiving funding from Sharia states such as Qatar, Saudi Arabia and Iran, making, promoting, operating or enforcing any ruling from religious courts or attribution systems a federal felony. Now those actions will slow Islam's progress. It will slow it down. However, just to be blunt, you must recognise it is not a religion. Strip it of that status. Recognise it for what it is. Only then will the government of the USA be able to act forcibly and without fear. Ban the Quran. It's full of hate. Ban the call of prayer. Ban mass praying in the street. Ban the burqa and the niqab. Shut down the mosques. Round up and deport every Islamic extremist preacher. Round up and deport every extremist your security services are monitoring. If you do all of this, you may have a chance to save the United States of America. Now, I know that went on for a long time. I thank you for giving me patience there.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us for this special presentation. You can see how important it is, just on Tommy's final words there, for Canadians to prioritize electing people committed to shutting down this threat. I've had Maxime Bernier on the show. He is on the front line. He's going to be coming out with new policy that I've been engaging with him on the threat of Islam. The Conservative Party refuses to touch this. I have lobbied many of the MPs, asking them if they would sponsor an e-petition to designate the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist group. They are refusing to take that step. Do you know what that would do in helping us move forward to keep Canadians safe? Another point, Tommy talked about the arrest of people who are publicly exposing the threat of Islam in the UK. I'm here to tell you that over a month ago, 2 plainclothes RCMP officers showed up at my door to advise me that I was being investigated under Section 319, subsection 2 of the Criminal Code for willfully promoting hate, they said, on the A4C website and on our X account. I vehemently denied it and said that everything was backed up with evidence. They had zero evidence to provide me, and I refused their offer to meet with them to discuss it further. I told them to provide me the complaint in writing with the specific details. Guess what? I never heard back from them so far. The fact is that Canada is a Christian nation, and we will not bow down and cannot bow down to Islam. Tommy has laid out the threats. I've done multiple presentations myself specific to Canada, exposing the growing threat here and how Islam is using the silent jihad to get into positions of government, to push their campaigns based on the fake Islamophobia and self-victimization. It is absolutely critical that we do not and will not be compelled to submit to Islam, and we must stop accommodating their demands. They need to integrate, assimilate, or leave. Islam is a threat to the safety and security of every Canadian, and therefore we must shut down all manifestations of Islam. That means ban the Quran, ban Sharia law, shut down every mosque, Islamic center, and school, all of which teach the Quran as their central doctrine. And as you have witnessed throughout Tommy's presentation, it is barbaric, violent, evil ideology that as the population of Islam increases, as the Muslims come to our land and outpopulate us, so the violence and the rape increases with it. This is no longer something where we should be silenced in thinking that we do not have a right to protect our nation. In the description, we will make sure that we post, along with this video, several links reporting on the threat of Islam, how it poses specifically to Canadians. These are reports that I've provided previously. I gave an overview at the beginning of the show, but they're no good sitting in the description. We really need you to provide these to candidates who are running for office. You need to know exactly where they stand on this critical issue. You need to provide it to sitting members of parliament, MPPs, MLAs, mayors, and city councils, because the Muslims are absolutely lobbying government every chance. They're not resting on this because their goal is world submission. Every single country they enter, they will not integrate, they will not assimilate, and so it's time for us. They've drawn the line in the sand. They've outstayed their welcome. If we don't learn from what's happening in the UK and Europe, man, are we foolish. And so we have a duty and a responsibility to defend our culture, founded on Judeo-Christian biblical principles. And so again, I challenge you to pick a side and then join us in the fight. The future of Canada and the next generations is relying on it. Heather, will you please come on and join me and provide next week's, what we're doing next week and the Bible verses. Thank you.
And first of all, Tanya, I just want to say thank you so much for all the work that you're doing. And I also want to extend a thank you to Tommy Robinson and his team for compiling this presentation and giving us permission to share it with our viewers. And now I would like to ask you, our viewers, to share this video with your family, your friends, your pastors, your church leaders, and elected officials. And there will be no Empower Hour next week, but we will look forward to seeing you once again on August 12th, where Doris Livingstone, Action for Canada's very own homeschool lead, will be joined by homeschooling parents Dwayne and Jolene Hay. So be sure to join us for that. Now, Tanya asked me to share these Bible verses with you. The first one is from Isaiah 46, verse 9. Remember the former things, those of long ago. I am God, and there is no other. I am God, and there is none like me. And the second verse is from Amos 5, verse 15. Hate evil and love good, and establish justice in the gate. It may be that the Lord, the God of hosts, will be gracious to the remnant of Joseph. So until we meet again, God bless you, and God bless Canada.
Sacrificing so much for our freedom.
pursue it. You have a virtuous heart if you are here today pursuing freedom and righteousness. And then verse 23 comes along with a promise. God says he will